And we are live. Welcome to, in the United States, Wednesday. I think it's Thursday over there in Australia. Wednesday, Carnivore Night School. I'm John Laspina. I'm the Carnivore Teacher on YouTube. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. We're going to talk about animal fats versus plant fats. And of course, we're going to discuss seed oils. So a very important topic, I believe. And we'll start. Well, I'll start first, and then we'll go around. We'll go clockwise. I have a channel on YouTube called Carnivore Teacher. I post things to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and a few others. And I make a lesson every day and a song every Wednesday sometimes for fun. And I became fat adapted about 6 months after I started about 6 years ago. And I very gradually went from keto to ketovore, stayed in ketovore for about 3 years. And then I went into carnivore, and I've been a carnivore for almost 2 full years now and have improved lower back pain. It's gone. AFib is almost gone. Mental health is drastically improved. So many of the wonderful benefits that you hear people talk about when they talk about cleaning up their diet, going low carb, going carnivore. So that's me. How about you, Rick?
Oh, you know me. I started the carnivore diet in 1983 as a form of protest because I was sick and tired of the healthy foods that were being pushed on me. Also got tired of being short and skinny. I'm still skinny, but I'm not short anymore. And I've enjoyed the carnivore diet. I've never had the back pain or arthritis or any of the other problems that most people have. But I guess that's a good thing. And it's probably due to the carnivore diet and the carnivore lifestyle. I also have a lifestyle of simplicity. I've never been in debt, and I try not to get things I'm not going to use. I basically throw out nothing, and I try to recycle everything. And yes, I do have a garden. I grow plants. That's one of my hobbies, is an amateur botanist. I may grow them, but I don't like to eat them. So that's pretty much me in the nutshell.
All right, Nia. Hi.
Hello, I'm Nia from Nia's Way on YouTube, and I have been a carnivore for over a year now, probably close to a year and a quarter, close to a year and a half. On my second round, so I've had a long health journey, full of twists and turns and exciting events. But here I am now, and carnivore is how I feel best, so I stick with that. And getting back into some more movement, and I try to incorporate a lot of other lifestyle habits as well that continue to help me feel better and better. So excited to be here as usual.
That's great. Thanks. Sophia, it's Thursday there, right?
Thursday morning. Yep. I'm originally from California, but I moved to Australia about 21 years ago. I've been a carnivore for the last 8 months. Prior to that, I was on the blood group diet. So I have been making efforts to try to get on top of my health. So I was like Rick, I was growing vegetables for myself in my own garden to control the, what happens with the food. And also to, support being as much self-sustainable as I could be, without having to rely too much on, because of the world chaos that's been going on. I was like, oh, I think I should grow my own food, and maybe I should have my own chickens too.
There you go.
So I got chickens now. I still kind of grow vegetables, but I grow them for my chickens. And like Rick, I've been debt free since 2011, and I don't keep my money in the bank. So I go by My Carnivore Doggo on YouTube and Instagram. I only started my YouTube a few weeks ago. I've been kind of adamant not to be on there, but someone convinced me. I am now offering coaching services on the carnivore diet.
All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. So we're going to talk about the difference between animal fats versus plant fats, because we talk about seed oils a lot in the carnivore space. If you're watching any influencers on YouTube or wherever, they'll often bring up how bad seed oils are. And so in this episode tonight, we want to talk about what are these terrible seed oils that we're talking about. So I want to just kind of give a little information as a teacher, what seed oils are, where they come from, why they're bad, and then just kind of go around and like hear your input, your perception, and how you try to stay away from seed oils as well. So a seed oil, often known as vegetable oil, they use the word vegetable oil to make it sound healthy, because in the world, the word vegetable is supposed to be healthy. We as carnivores know better than that anyway, but a lot of people believe, eat your fruits and vegetables. So if vegetable oil sounds healthy, and it's heart healthy because it does not raise your cholesterol. And there's another myth that you hear about cholesterol, that it's going, and it will lower your cholesterol if you eat seed oils, which is a bad thing. But most of the world think lowering cholesterol is a good thing. So seed oils come from seeds from plants. So from the rapeseed we get canola oil. From soybeans, we get soybean oil. Peanut, we get peanut oil, and so on. Safflower seeds, we get safflower oil. And these, to get the oil out of the seeds, this is my understanding now, they have to use very, very high pressure, which creates and generates an extremely high heat. And because the polyunsaturated fats that are in seeds, oh, here comes somebody else. Let me let them in. There he is. How we doing there? Papa Carnivore. Peter, welcome. We're talking about animal fats versus plant fats. We'll let you introduce yourself as soon as I'm done talking the little concept here, and then we'll go around and talk about that. So in the process of crushing with extremely high heat polyunsaturated fats, these oils, these fats become unstable because they're not saturated with hydrogen. You have a molecule, and if it's saturated with hydrogen all around the edges, there's no room for any other hydrogen to get in. Nothing else wants to go out. Oxidation does not occur, and it's a very stable saturated fat. That's the kind of fat that is mostly in animal fats. But if something is very polyunsaturated, means many spaces don't have a hydrogen, and they want to oxidize, and these fats oxidize very, very easily with heat, with light, and with time. So canola oil, soybean oil, margarine, crisco, peanut oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, there are a few others, rice bran oil. They are all called vegetable oils. They're all polyunsaturated fats that are already oxidized and rancid when they're in the bottles, or when they're in the fast food or in the food that you're eating, because to get them out of the seed, they had to use high heat. So they're already this extremely high linoleic fatty acid that causes oxidation in our bodies, and that's why it's bad. I want to present real quick just the list. All right, here's that list that oh, that's not the right one. Well, let's talk about this one while we're there. Can you see that, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is a chart that I found, and the dark color is omega-3 fatty acids, which are polyunsaturated fats, but they're healthy, and they can go rancid if you heat them up. So they're very fragile. And you'll notice, I don't know if you can see down on the bottom, seafood has a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, and the lighter colors are
We're
the
seeing
omega.
a list, John, of the different
All
oils.
right, so you're
not a
seeing,
chart.
all right, you're
Sorry.
seeing something different. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. There's the list. Okay, so I'll get to that other one. So this is the list I often share in some of my videos, so that people understand to stay away from these seed oils. They're not good for you at all. They oxidize, they cause inappropriate inflammation in the body. It's what caused my lower back pain for many years, I believe. And we want to stay away from those. And instead, we want to cook with and use animal fats, which have some polyunsaturated fats in them, and monounsaturated, but they have more saturated fats. So we're talking butter and ghee and beef tallow and lard, which comes from pigs. It could be bacon fat and even chicken schmaltz. It can come from poultry. So that's the basics from the teacher perspective of the difference between a seed oil and a healthy animal fat. And I'll let you guys all talk and tell us your thoughts about everything I just said and how you avoid one and try to include more of the other. Rick, I'll let you go first there. Let's all mute our mics when Rick's talking. Or not, Rick. Oh, all right. Let's go to Nia and then we'll go back to Rick. I don't know what happened to Rick.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think that everything that you brought up was obviously on point. That's why we want to avoid it. I mean, when I think about this stuff, I typically always just go back to the fundamentals. Like, how did we survive before the industrial food system came into place, right? Even before the agricultural revolution, were we able to, like, because we can only get our energy from fat or from sugar. Like, those are our two options. So we either would have needed to be predominantly fat-based most of the year, most of the time in order to survive, or we would have needed a reliable source of carbohydrate, of sugar, of some kind of, essentially plant material in order to sustain ourselves and reproduce and live and all that kind of stuff. And so when we think about the types of fats, since that's what we're talking about specifically today, it's, there are very few plants that are naturally high in fat, and they're typically, restricted to the tropical areas, things like coconuts, avocados, things like that we would probably consider like, hey, you're going to eat plants. These would be some of the options that would be on the healthier end of the spectrum for, because of their fat content and other things. But there's very little of those options, right? So really, when it comes down to, like, should we be consuming a lot of plant fats in general versus animal fats? From that fundamental premise, I would always come back to that thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because we're clearly not adapted to be eating, 15 coconuts a week or 45 avocados a week, or, whatever it would have taken throughout our general history to survive on a high fat plant diet, right? So clearly, when we're talking about fats, what we would have had ancestrally would have been animal fats, not plant fats. So the plant fats that are being sort of pushed on us for, we're encouraged to eat are completely artificial, as John was pointing out. They're not food. Like, they literally are processed to the degree that there is nothing remaining that even remotely resembles something that would be nutritious or have any sort of benefit to it whatsoever. If you can find, use like the mechanically pressed, like the cold pressed, or, mechanically expelled oils, like some of the olive oils, if you can find a real pure olive oil, sorry, I forgot my window's open, or some coconut oils or like that could potentially be okay. But the process that these seed oils go through in order to get into the bottle and get into the grocery store and get into your home is, I mean, when you actually go look at it, it's insane. I mean, they have to be chemically, the fats have to be chemically separated after they're pressed out. Hexane is used to break down the oils, so that they can be separated. And hexane's a neurotoxin. And so they claim that all this stuff gets evaporated out or distilled off in the end stage of processing before this oil is bottled up and shipped and sold as food. But how do we know that? And you always get that label. It's like, well, it's safe under a certain ppm or under a certain quantity, right? It's generally recognized as safe to have a little bit of hexane potentially in your food. So it's, when you look into actually how these things are made, there's no way, in my view, that any of those things can even be put in a food category. And therefore, what is it? It's either neutral or it's a harm. And I'm in the camp that believes that these are actually harmful due to the way they're processed, due to the way they're ubiquitous, due to the way our bodies just clearly don't know what to do, how to handle things like that, because we are not adapted to eating those types of items. So thank you. So those are kind of my thoughts.
All right, thanks.
Can
We're
I
going to
can I
back
just
up
add
to
on
Rick.
to-
Oh,
Can I
go
just
ahead.
add on to what she
Sure,
said?
Sophia, go ahead.
So in regards to, say, the cold pressed olive oil, the coconut oil, and the avocado oil, those are the fruit of the plant, are they not?
They are the flesh. You're pressing the oil out
Yeah.
of the flesh
Yeah.
of the fruit and not the seed or the nut. You're right.
Yeah, and so those oils would be considered safer than the seed oils. But in saying that, fruit is supposed to be seasonal. It's not supposed to be on demand. We shouldn't be having it on demand all the time. So we shouldn't be eating it all the time. And according to Bart Kay, fruit is only supposed to be eaten as a fattening mechanism for when before winter sets in. That's the only time that fruit was traditionally eaten. And then also in regards to, the cold pressed olive oil, if you cook it at high temperature, you destroy the nutrients in that. So that's kind of what I wanted to add in regards to all of that. So yes, they may be healthier than the seed oils, but it's a fruit, which means it's supposed to be seasonal. We're not supposed to have it all the time. And if you cook it at high temperatures, especially olive oil, it will destroy the nutrients. That's why you see the Italians, they don't cook with it. They drizzle it on top of
Exactly.
stuff.
Yes.
And they use it, I don't know what that thing is called. It's like an appetizer with the bread and antipasto, antipasto type of stuff as an appetizer before their main meal.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. I
that's
also
what
want
I
to
wanted
add,
to
since
add.
you brought that up, Sophia, I want to add also that if we have a lot of olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, and we do it properly, we're getting plant sterols instead of the cholesterol that we need. So our body is looking for cholesterol that it makes and that it eats, and it's using the plant sterols, even if it's not rancid. It's using the plants instead of our own. And it's healthier to just stick with animal fats for that reason as well. So, yeah. All right, Rick, you went out for a little bit, so we skipped over you. So what are your thoughts on our seed oil topic here?
Well, my computer is extremely old. Like everything I have around here, it's from the dump, and I don't have the money to replace it. So I just have to use it and hit it and struggle with it. And then I get this little guy over here playing with the USB cord. So, that makes the mouse stop working. You got to realize this is a computer mouse, not a real mouse, okay? But anyway, I wanted to illustrate, as I always do. Here we have some beef tallow. Now, beef tallow is a saturated fat. It's a solid at a cool room temperature. This is a plant fat. Now, pretty much all plant fats, as you mentioned, are unsaturated, which means they don't have the hydrogen bonds complete. So they're going to be liquid at room temperature. But there's more to it than that. Because they're unsaturated, they're more likely to oxidize. Now, I'm a cheapskate, so a lot of times I make my own paint. If you remember in the old days, they used to have what they call oil paint, and everybody would paint their house, and they'd paint all kinds of things with this oil paint. It had a unique smell to it. And what that smell was oxidation. Basically, the oil that was used, which most cases was flaxseed oil. Now, if you've ever seen flax, it's a type of grass seed. My dad used to love to eat flax seeds because he said that it was healthy and it was supposed to be good for your heart. And every time I tried to eat the stuff, it made me have a stomach ache and feel terrible. I used to get diarrhea from that stuff. And I did a little research. I go, Dad, this is what they sell in the hardware store called boiled linseed oil. And what they do, they grind up the seeds and they would heat it up and sometimes mix it with solvents. And then that would create an oil that would be very likely to oxidize. Now, for those of you who are like me and use cast iron for cooking, which I really like, a lot of times commercially, they'll use this oil to season the cast iron cookware. The reason they do that is because it's a polyunsaturated oil, it can form polymers with itself once it oxidizes. And again, this is the reason why it was used for paint. And if you've ever seen an old abandoned building or just a place that's been run down, you'll notice that the paint often cracks and flakes off. That's because the oil that was used to make the paint eventually hardens and oxidizes, and it becomes a solid. And then you have to go through all the trouble of scraping off all that paint and trying to sand it down or pressure clean it or whatever, and then you repaint it. Now, I am very familiar with seed oils because even though I would never use these things to eat or cook with, I use them as a fuel. And seed oils make a good fuel, again, because they oxidize readily. So when you put this in an old diesel engine and it's sprayed in at high pressure, it's mixed with air, and it heats up, it will ignite. This stuff is actually, although it has a lower BTU count than diesel, there's less calories in this than there is in diesel. But when it ignites, because it oxidizes so well, it's so unstable, it actually produces more power. And I've been able to verify it on my truck with a dynamometer about 10 years ago. We compared diesel versus vegetable oil, and I got more power on vegetable oil, even though vegetable oil has less BTUs in it. Now, if you've ever tried to make vegetable oil, which I have, I've been able to make vegetable oil from royal palm berries and other palm seeds. I have a device called a screw press. And what it is, it's like a screw that fits inside of like a big nut-like casing. And it's designed so that the seeds go in it, and as the screw rotates, they get squeezed tighter and tighter into the threads. Now, what comes out of there is almost like a hard, sort of a fibrous pulp. So with palm seeds and other tropical seeds typically have more saturated fats because of the hot climate. And you'll see this a lot with desert plants. They have, I forget the jaboticaba or whatever. There's some plants that grow in desert areas. The seeds are very high in oil and they're easy to remove. But the crops that they use for seed oils are typically annuals, such as corn and soybeans and, safflower. What is safflower? Well, that's the seeds that's used to make saffron. Saffron is used as a spice. They get those seeds. There's also sesame, any kind of seed you can crush up and get oil. Now, you could press the oil like in the screw press, but you're only going to get a tiny fraction of the oil. Most of the oil is mixed in with the plant fibers, and you can't extract them with pressure. The only way you can get them out was solvents and extreme heat. But as you said, if you heat up the oil, it's going to oxidize, it's going to polymerize, it's going to turn into just like rubber. So they use hexane, which is a petroleum derivative, which is similar to what octane would be in gasoline. It's extremely toxic. It's carcinogenic. It's really bad. And even though they say they can evaporate it, you can't, because the vegetable oils the seed oils, they are, they're unstable. They're not completely saturated with hydrogen. Some of the hydrogen in the hexane can actually mix with the oil, and you're going to get hexane derivatives and polymers of hexane in the oil. So it's impossible to have this stuff pure unless it's simply cold pressed. And then the other problem is, since I collect the used oil to use as a fuel, if that oil oxidizes, it will turn rancid and it will clog up your fuel system. It'll cause it to rust out. So I have to put nitrogen gas in my tanks to keep it from oxidizing. And again, when that thing gets hot, it'll make it's like rubber. If you have any kind of leaks on your engine, this stuff hardens. It's just like caulking or undercoating, and it is terrible. And the other thing is, everybody that I've known that cooks with seed oils in their kitchen, the vent hood, the stove, and everything gets covered with the stickiest, nastiest oxidized oils. But my kitchen, where I use this, and I do a lot of deep frying, I deep fry every single day. When it comes time to clean the kitchen, I've had it sit there for a month. And all I had to do was get a little bit of washing soda and a sponge, start rubbing it, and it cleans up really nice. And also the animal fats, in the old days, they used to use lamb fat called lanolin as a preservative. You would put it on steel, like in a machine shop or something like that, where you're making parts, you don't want them to rust. You would use animal fats to put on there because they don't oxidize readily. So they help protect the metal. So all these characteristics you'll see with the so-called seed oils that are supposed to be healthy. And these things, just if you want to prove it to yourself, eat some lard or tallow and try to take a spoonful of this. taste it and see what it tastes like. How much of this can you eat before you're going to throw it up or get sick? This is not a food product. This is a lubricating oil. This is a fuel. This should never be eaten. This is a product. Now, when it comes to other oils like tropical oils, I have the ability, and I've made coconut oil for many years. My mother liked things cooked in coconut oil, so I would get the coconuts, scoop them out, put them in water, heat them up slowly. The coconut oil rises to the top. It's very easy to extract coconut oil because, unlike seeds, coconuts have a water-based solution inside of them. They're a very unique seed, which means that the oil has to be saturated more than unsaturated, because otherwise it will oxidize in the water and the coconut will rot from the inside out. Plus, coconuts have to be able to travel over hot oceans all around the world. They can last for a year before they germinate. So coconuts are a very unique thing in the plant world. And it's one of the few seeds that I can actually eat without getting sick. I actually do like coconuts. And if you live in a tropical climate like we do, it is a year-round thing that you can eat. But again, you need to understand all of this. No one should ever eat any of these so-called seed oils made from industrial annual crops, because this stuff is not healthy. If you want to eat plant oils, you could get olive oil, but again, that's seasonal. It doesn't last very long after it's been pressed. Or you can get the coconut oil. Coconut oil can be solid at room temperature, and it can last for years. But again, you need to know your fats. And if you're like me, you'll just hit the animal fats. Not only do they taste better, but they cook better. And if you love deep frying like I do, they're the only fats that can take high temperature and not break down. So, and when I cook my eggs, I use beef tallow. I do it every day, and I've never had an egg stick to my pan. And I got 80-year-old cast iron pans that look like brand new. So I always thought, hey, if my cookware looks like that, I bet my insides look the same way.
Wow, Rick, this entire show tonight would be nothing without you. That was phenomenal. That was a master class. You were like a chemist. I learned things I didn't know. How freaking cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh my gosh.
Can I add something to Rick's thing?
Yes,
Okay,
go ahead,
so,
Sophia. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in regards to the seed oils, we all know that they're heavily processed, so it's just another processed food. Now, you said you've made them, but I've made tallow myself, so which seems it's very simple, and I think it's an easier process than doing seed oils, like for as well. So you go to your local butcher, you ask for some beef suet, you take it home, you put it in a pot with some water and some salt, and you render it down. You can render it 3 times to get the stink to go away, and there you go. You've got your fat oil to cook anything in. But like the seed oils, and we've all seen the videos going around where it's so heavily processed, and it's just disgusting. It smells bad, and I think I even heard that it was used as a fuel or an engine lubricant in like World War II or something. Is that, or World War One? One of the World Wars. It was created as an engine lubricant. So it was never meant for consumption.
Generally, seed oils were used as a cutting oil for machine tools like lathes and milling machines and stuff like that, because they're very good at sticking to metals, and they also help carry away the chips. So it was very popular, and it was also used in paint. Seed oils are also used for ink, such as soybean oil makes an excellent newsprint ink. So it has a lot of industrial uses, and seed oils are very valuable. In fact, I think they're irreplaceable. They're also good for making certain plastics. So in the industrial world, they have a lot of uses. And they also work as a pesticide for certain scale insects.
Yes.
So
on
they
the
do have
vegetable
uses.
garden. Yeah, on the vegetable garden, there is a recipe of using oil to remove insects. So yeah, it's a natural type of pesticide. So yeah, I have heard that.
Rick, a great takeaway is, what is it doing to these machines, all these different things? Do I want that to do that inside my body? And that was a really important takeaway. Papa Carnivore, we've left you out for a while because you're at the end of the list here. Tell us, you're kind of new on carnivore. How are you dealing with seed oils and avoiding them?
Yeah, I'm only 19 months carnivore, so a little on the early side, I guess. Not 40 years like Rick. I mean, I'm a rookie. I can't even, scrape the bottom of his shoes. But no, so as far as seed oils, one of the worst things you could put in your body, worse than sugar, really worse than sugar, is these industrial seed oils. It's poison. I mean, if you put this stuff in your body, you're poisoning, because as Rick said, when you look at the fuel lines of a vehicle getting clogged up, if you look at the grease hoods on these fryers at these restaurants, I mean, it's so bad that I'll give you a story. They took the cleaning crew, the employees of, I forget which fast food, but they put them in a van and they combusted. They naturally combusted and turned into fire because of how unstable the molecules are, and the stuff got on their clothing from the air. They're cooking up French fries, and literally caused a fire just on their clothing, just from the oil. So imagine this stuff in your body. I mean, this stuff is horrific. I forget the name of the researcher, the doctor, who you guys might know him, who talks about seed oils, and he shows the charts and the graphs of over time how much seed oil people are eating and how destructive it is to people's health. But it's worse than sugar. If you show the graphs, it's worse than sugar. And the correlation between the diabetes, obesity, is directly correlates with the prevalence of seed oil consumption in humans. So it's to be avoided at all costs. And if any of you have seen the videos of how this stuff is made, it is just, you got to watch the video. Google, a video, or on YouTube, of the process of this stuff being made. You'll never put that stuff in your body, because it looks like sludge, literally like industrial sludge. And the smell of that stuff, it's just, you would not put this stuff in your body. And like Nia said, they use hexane and all kinds of different chemicals to process this stuff to make it to where it can smell halfway normal and look, halfway normal. So what I use beef tallow when I cook my steaks. I cook my eggs in butter. Those are my two go-tos. And those are the fats that I use. I cook only with butter and with beef tallow. And that's what I recommend for everybody. Olive oil, I used to, when I was keto, I did, the olive oil, the avocado oil, but not anymore. Now it's just straight up beef tallow and butter.
All right. That's how I do it too.
Wonderful.
It's better. It's more saturated. I also learned that the processed food, the ultra processed foods that are in boxes and packages on the store shelves, you'll read them. They'll say canola oil, soybean oil. They'll have one of those seed oils in there. I learned, because they're deodorizing these, because they stink after they use hexane and they extract it, they deodorize it so it doesn't smell. If you open a box of Ritz crackers or Goldfish crackers or Pringles and you smell it, they don't smell bad because the oil is deodorized. If they didn't deodorize it and you open that package, you'd fall over. That's how foul odoring it would have smelled. If you think about fish is a very fragile omega-3 fatty acid. When it goes bad, when that fat goes rancid, it stinks to high heaven, as we all know, because that's an omega-3. It's also a polyunsaturated fatty acid, and it just reeks. So the fats that they're putting into this ultra processed food and fast food, it doesn't stink because they deodorize it. Had they never deodorized it, you would not be eating it. We eat it. You and I don't, but many people in the world are eating this stuff because it doesn't smell bad, but it really is bad. It's starting massive inappropriate inflammation in the body. It's terrible. And people don't realize this because they are kind of in a fog of their own eating. They've been doing it year after year after year. And so as we age, we think that little ache and pain and cramp is supposed to happen and is normal. And as we get older, it gets worse. And we're told it's just age. And it's really our diet. It's this awful, awful diet. One of the comments that came up here, I wanted to ask you guys a question based on this comment. Nourishment Redacted says, I can tell when my children eat food with seed oils versus animal fats from home. It's insane. I'm seriously considering stopping going out. We can't afford it anyway. Well, LOL. I cook better than restaurants. So what are your thoughts on that? Because ever since
I'd
the
like to
COVID
answer that.
lockdown, ever since the COVID lockdown and we didn't go out, I still don't go out unless I have to meet people for a birthday party or something. It's too expensive. I have to go through the whole spiel with the waiter, the server, the cook about making my steak the way I tell them without the seed oil. I tell them I'm going to have the severe allergy, so their hackles go up and they don't get sued. And then I never get enough food because they give me the serving by itself because I don't need all the sides. And that's supposed to fill you up. And then it's like, I want 2 steaks or I want 2 hamburgers because it's never enough. And I'm kind of like Nourishment Redacted. I cook better at home anyway. It's cheaper. It tastes great. And I know that it has absolutely 0 seed oil. Even when you go to a restaurant and you talk to them and they tell you there's no seed oil, you still don't, you're kind of gambling. You don't know if it's in there. You're hoping.
I recently had a situation with that. Obviously, there will be times where you get invited to an event and you don't want to not go because you want to be with the people. And so when you get there, you're looking at the menu going, well, what can I have? This is from my experience of being on carnivore. And so you tell the waitress, okay, I would like these garlic prawns. Okay. I don't want any seed oils. Don't cook it in seed oils. Please cook it in butter. And on the photo, it shows butter anyway. So I'm like, okay, well, I should be safe with that. But I ate it and I had a good time. But the next day I was in pain. Like my symptoms came back and I knew that was the problem. Even though I'd requested that, you're not back there with the chef watching his every move. And you don't even know if the waitress gave him that message. So it's important to actually physically speak to the chef about your order, because you can't say no every single time to go out. You have to be able to go out, especially if it's like a work due or a Christmas party or something where it's at a venue and you can't really control the way that things are done unless you speak to the chef. So in that instances, I have been advised to basically say, I have an allergic reaction to seed oils. If you give me any seed oils, I'm going to have a reaction to that, and I will hold you responsible. You could say that, because it's not going to be every single time that you're not going to be able to go. Restaurants don't even have real butter of the time. Bring your own butter. That could be another suggestion. Bring your own butter.
I have a little container, a little container I put in my
Yes.
pocket with my Redmond
Okay.
real salt, and I put ghee in there because butter, it's harder to transport and get to where you want it. So ghee
Yep.
is butter without the lactose and
Yep.
and the proteins, and it's so delicious. So
I had allergies.
yeah, you're right. And
Yeah, I had
restaurants
allergies.
absolutely, even if you say butter, they'll say, yes, we have butter. Well, butter to them is synonymous with margarine.
Yep.
Or whipped
Yep.
butter, which is a blend. So you have to
Yeah.
say real hard dairy butter. Let me see it first.
Yeah, well, I had allergies growing up as a kid, and so when we would go to Burger King, my mom had to bring my own buns because I couldn't eat their buns. So if I could do that in the early 80s, surely you can bring your own butter to a restaurant and say, I don't trust your butter. I need this to be cooked in my butter, and I don't want anything else added. Like, pure and simple. If you do, I'm going to get a reaction and I'll hold you responsible.
Their hackles go up when they hear that. You just say the word allergy.
Yeah.
And they will, most of the time, the cook will actually walk out to the table and will, ask you more questions, which when they do that, it makes me feel better. Rick, do you go out at all? Nope.
No, I'm too poor to eat out, and there's really no reason for it. Usually if I have a get together, it's going to be at a friend's place, and I'm always put on the grill. So I'm there with the meat, and before we have our meat, I always have a little bit. So I'll eat probably twice as much as they think I eat because I'm sampling the food as I'm cooking it. But no, I never eat out. And I think the doctor that he was mentioning, I think his name is Dr. Paul Mason, the blonde guy over there in Australia that's always talking about seed oils. Now, I had a friend of mine give me some chicken that they fried, and I thought it was heart attack chicken. It tasted good. But the next day, I had a terrible headache. I thought I was catching the flu. And then it hit me. I go, wait a minute. What was in the chicken? And I showed him how to cook heart attack chicken with lard, but his daughter cooked it. And guess what she used
Yeah.
to cook the chicken? This garbage.
Yeah.
And
Ooh.
the funny thing was, I didn't even know it. I had no idea that she had used seed oil. And yet, I got sick anyway. I got a headache. I had sinus. It was, because I'm very sensitive. I work with a lot of nasty, dirty places. So my sinuses are always having an issue. And on the carnivore diet, I can manage it. It's no problem. But if I get some of this other stuff given to me, I'm going to be sneezing and miserable. My eyes will water. It's just terrible. And I get that sinus headache, which is really unpleasant. So, and the thing is, if I'm traveling, why would I need a restaurant? I have a vehicle. I don't need a restaurant. And the thing is, there's several options. One option is cook on the engine. That if you need fast food. So if you don't want to stop anywhere, just cook on the engine. And for me, the food is more enjoyable when I can smell it and I can hear it sizzling. To me, what I don't like about a restaurant, and this is something that's strange, it's unique to me. I don't like the fact that I can't see the kitchen. I don't know what they're doing back there. And then on top of that, I have to get somebody to bring me the food, which I think is ridiculous. My idea of a restaurant is a buffet smorgasbord kind of thing where they put the food out there and then you can pick it up. You can choose what you want to eat. If you don't like something, you might take one piece and that's it. You throw it away. But when they bring you the food and it's not right, then you have to complain, oh, it's not good. They probably spit in your food. Who knows what they're doing? I'm sure that whoever's working in the kitchen is probably dealing with people telling them all these different instructions and it's hectic back there. I don't see the purpose of a restaurant. So to me, it's easier to cook. And again, if you don't like cooking on the engine, that's why they invented the portable grill. You could do the charcoal thing, but it's a lot of work and it's a mess. Just get one of those little propane grills. And people say, oh, propane is no good for cooking. I said, look, if you cook on a propane grill, you're still going to do better than they do in that kitchen back there in the restaurant. Unless you're going to some high-end five-star restaurant. Even those, I wouldn't trust them. Again, you don't know what they're doing back there. Plus, you watch all these dirty dining things on TV and you see how dirty the kitchens are and the food's out of temperature. And, I go, wow. And I know a lot of people that have had food poisoning. I've never had food poisoning in my entire life. And I've eaten meat out of the dumpster. So that tells you a lot about these restaurants. To think about it, if I can kill wild iguanas and chickens and ducks and cook them up, eat meat out of the dumpster, cook on my engine, and never get food poisoning. And yet I know people that go to a high-end restaurant and they get food poisoning. And it's usually from the salad. So I said, well, you don't get food poisoning because you eat all that meat and all that deep fried food. I said, yeah, that's right. So why would I eat out? Then they always try to push the other stuff on you. You go there and the first thing they do, they give you a basket of bread. And I say, oh, I love the duck food. You want me to go feed the ducks? They look at me like I'm weird. So, what's the point? Restaurants are not my thing.
All right. I knew that when I asked you that question. All right, Nia. Nia and I actually ate in a what was it? A Mongolian grill, right? Isn't that where we ate? We ate at a Mongolian grill together, and it was pretty good. But they gave us all the butter they had in the restaurant, right? Because we demanded it.
Yeah, and I'll push back on this just a smidge because I worked in restaurants for like 15 years, and my fiance is a chef, and so just and so I know what goes on back there, and all I can say is that it depends. It totally depends on where you go, and if it's a fast food place or how much you're paying for your meal, essentially. Because I've worked in places that were very accommodating, and especially some of the the sushi places, because my fiance is a sushi chef. mainly by trade. And so they're used to allergies. They're used to dealing with raw food. They're used to like hyper sanitizing, hyper cleaning everything. And so, you get soy and peanut and wheat and all these allergies all the time. And so it's sort of routine for people to like, okay, we got to go. But it is a major inconvenience. Like they have to literally go like if you have a flat top and you're cooking 50 orders, you have to take everything off and completely clean that entire space for the one order. You know what I mean? So like, obviously it's not convenient for them to do, but people will do it. And I find if you are kind and you try to present your information like, hey, I know this is a pain in the ass for you to do, but this is my situation. Could you please accommodate me? I think that's the way that I've had the best luck. Again, knowing, all of the things that the server and all the chefs and everybody that's managing, this whole operation here has to go through in order to accommodate your order. So, I always try to lead with that. But on the flip side, I just don't go to places and eat that I know that that are probably not either going to have real animal fats or are going to be able to accommodate what I need. So like John mentioned, because my fiance likes to go out to eat. And so we go, but we typically go to this Korean barbecue place where they have everything comes out raw. They have raw, unmarinated, completely unseasoned beef that hasn't been touched with anything. And you cook it on your grill right in front of you. So I can completely control that. And then there's seafood that comes and I just get hot water for broth. And so we do hot pot and Korean barbecue. And that's kind of like our favorite place to go because he can get all the sauces and the marinated stuff, whatever he wants. And then I can eat super clean carnivore and it's all you can eat. So for $25-$30, depending on if it's the weekend or a weekday, I think that's a pretty good deal. But really, it's limited to that place, or sometimes we'll go for barbecue, which, a lot of times there's seasoning on that, but you can typically trust that, if it's smoked or whatever, it's not covered in seed oil. So, it just kind of depends on your sensitivity and your comfort level with that. And so I think we all have to individually decide, if you're okay with a little bit of this every once in a while, if it's an exception, a special occasion. But the point is we are not doing this on a daily basis. We're not consuming this 5 to 7 to 9 times a day, eating snacks, drinking all this, so, obviously if we could be 100% clean 100% of the time, that would be ideal. But, we live in an imperfect world. So we just do our best,
I thank you for inviting me on. I've got to get going because it's nearly 9 o'clock in Australia and I've got to get to work. So thank you so much for inviting me on.
Thank
John,
you for
and it was
coming,
lovely to meet
Sophia.
everyone.
I appreciate you coming.
I know it's short notice too. So
Hey.
Thank you for everyone that's watched, and I hope you benefited from this panel today. Okay, bye guys.
Thanks, Sophia. All right, Papa Carnivore and I also ate out, and we didn't plan this. We met each other, I think, on Nia's Way, right? And I knew he lived in East Boca, and I'm in West Boca, and that's it. We were gonna do a meetup in Central Florida, but before that occurred, no communication. I just went to out of nowhere. I decided I think it was a Sunday night or a Saturday night, maybe. I don't know if it was Friday. Went to a Japanese buffet where I can get my sashimi and my shrimp and they had tons of oysters. I love seafood like crazy. And he's sitting at the table next to me with his mom, but we never met. It was kind of cool. So, Peter, tell us
here's what happened. So here's what happened. It was a Thursday night. It was Thursday. The meetup was on a Friday the next day for lunch.
What? Okay.
And so it was Thursday night.
All right.
And we go to this Ichiami, which is this place we go to. It's right by my house. And I had just emailed or texted John, and he was saying, hey, maybe we'll drive up together. And I said, well, we're going to go hang out a little bit afterwards. He said, oh, he can't go. They can't stay. So we'll just drive up separate. I said, okay. Well, I texted him or emailed him and said, I'll see you up there. And get to the restaurant, and I noticed at the table next to me, and I've seen John on the video, but there's a lot of guys, John, that could be similar, your look, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, I said to my mom, I said, Mom, I think this is the guy I was just texting with. I was just talking to this guy, but we're going to drive up to this meetup tomorrow. I said, I'm going to text him. So I pull out my phone. I text. I said, John, this is crazy, but I text him.
And right
And I
away, I
said,
pulled my phone out.
yeah. And I said, are you, I know this sounds crazy, but are you at Ichiyami restaurant in Boca right now? And then I hit that. And then you see him pick up his phone like 1 second later. And I'm like, and I didn't even wait. I just walked over. I'm like, John, it's Peter. How you doing? So it was, and I said, why don't you come over and have dinner with me and my mom? So we all sat together and we talked, and
yeah, it was
it
fun.
was really great. But I love that restaurant because it's just great sushi, amazing sushi.
Yeah.
Great oysters on the half shell, as many as you want. They got the snow crab clusters. They got everything. Shrimp, as much as you want. So, yeah, it's a great place. And I don't have to worry about all the seed oils and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You could see, like Rick said, he likes the buffets. You could see what you're getting. It's not back in the kitchen. What stuff that is there has seed oils and what doesn't.
Yeah.
You can see it. You can tell. You can choose to make your decisions. Where else do you eat, Peter?
Well, I don't eat out that much. I don't trust anything so much. But like Nia, there's a couple of places that I'll go. There's a restaurant called Seasons 52. I think it's a chain.
Yeah, on
and
Blades.
Yeah, and I just tell them, please, make sure you cook my steak in, don't put seed oil on it. If you can, use butter or beef tallow or whatever.
And we have to educate them into what seed oil is, because we use the phrase seed oil in our world.
Yeah.
You have to say vegetable oil. I say plant fats, and I list them. Otherwise, they don't get it.
Yeah. But I'm pretty good at knowing when I taste that seed. I can smell it. I can taste it. So I know when I go there, they do listen to me, and it's good. So, but it's tough. It's really, really tough.
It is. It is.
So you are taking a risk, and I guess I'm not as strict. If I do get a little of it, I'm like, okay, whatever. It's one night, and I'm not going to beat myself. But I do try my best to not have it,
Yeah, I have learned, somebody in this mentioned it. It might have been Sophia or I think maybe it was Rick. Our body recognizes glucose. It recognizes sugar. It recognizes carbohydrates as much as we demonize them because, excess is bad. Our body does not recognize machine lubricants. And so the body responds with inflammation and problems. And it may be slight at first, but then it just, everything that Rick said, it just makes me think about, going into my garage and looking at all my chemicals that are not in the kitchen. But people have this stuff in their kitchen too, but it's labeled as a cooking oil. I can't tell you how many times way back when I used to make a cake or brownies, the big bottle of Wesson oil, right? A cup of Wesson oil in the mix. I remember oh my goodness. And it doesn't smell. It's odorless because they deodorized it. Had they not deodorized.
Well, and you think about, apologize for interrupting you, but it's really like people are starting to catch on to this idea that these seed oils are bad. Like, even if you're not in the carnivore space, it's, it is starting to become known a little bit. Good. And you think about how long that took from the time when these things came out and they were like, yep, you need to eat these, you need to take away the animal fat. Like, how long did that take for this to kind of be like, yeah, I guess we're going to sort of start to maybe admit just a little bit that maybe it's not the best thing ever, but it still lowers your cholesterol. So you really, just do it in moderation. Right. And so think about 20 years from now, how many things that are out on the shelves today that people are like, oh yeah, it's fine. You can eat this stuff. It's no big deal. This is actually better, right? As long as you just have it in moderation. Like, I just feel like in a couple decades, we're going to have it could go one of two ways. It could go like totally off, way out into left field and be totally crazy. Or, we'll be looking back on these days going, how did we not see this? How did we not pick up on this as as the issue a long time ago. So
It
we're
does
picking
take a
it now.
long time. Think about when the doctors in the 1940s and 50s recommended smoking. Here's the cigarette that your doctor smokes and he recommends. It's good for your lungs. It's good for your throat. And how long did it take for us to get to where we are today? You're so right, Nia, because it's just going to take decades upon decades before this is realized, and millions of people's bad health in the process. Even before that, what was morphine was legal, and they used to have advertisements for them. If you look at the old ads in the 1910s and 1920s, heroin, you could buy heroin. Can you believe it? So yeah, seed oils we hope are going to go into that category, but it's also knotted together with the myth of high cholesterol and saturated fats. So people string all these things together and they keep repeating them on the commercials, and they keep repeating them everywhere. And it's very difficult to erase that and reprogram people. It's generational. I think it's going to take, your kids, because it has to change, I guess, very slowly. Unfortunately, we took the red pill, right? So we woke up really fast. Anyway, I appreciate everybody. We're getting close to the end. I know that we lost Sophia, but if we want to use this time and just share where people can find you on the internet, on YouTube, mine's Carnivore Teacher. Rick, you're Charger Mopar, right?
That's right. I'm only on YouTube. I'm nowhere else.
All right. Yeah, you have two, don't you?
I did. I had a separate podcast channel, but I thought that's kind of stupid. I should just put them all on one channel. So I'm combining them back. Yeah. So if you were interviewed on my channel way back when, you'll see your interview come up again over the next month. Yeah. So Nia's Way. I'm on Instagram, but I think, like Sophia said, I'm never really on there. So
okay. And you're on tomorrow night, Nia's Way. Anybody listening, if you want to tune into Nia's Way, she has a lot of people and great topics. So I know I'll be there. And Papa Carnivore, you're in the car?
Yeah, I'm heading home from work.
All right. And you don't have a YouTube channel, right? Or you do?
Papa Carnivore 15.
You do? Papa Carnivore 15. All right.
Yeah.
Great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're close to the top of the hour. Thank you so much for coming. Rick, especially, you are our chemist tonight, and this was a masterclass. Everybody added so much, and hopefully our viewers, either in the replay or live, took away. I know I learned some new stuff tonight. You never stop learning, so always stay curious and open-minded, and I will see you guys later. Have a wonderful evening, and eat well, so that you can look and feel well and become the optimized version of yourself.